Hi, in this video we're going to take a look at the controversial subject of gatekeeping within wargaming. The wargaming community, known for its strategic depth, creativity and camaraderie, unfortunately grapples with a persistent issue, and that's gatekeeping. Now, this practice is where long-time enthusiasts create barriers to entry for newcomers, and it manifests in a variety of different forms, and from dismissive attitudes to outright exclusionary behaviour. Now, understanding why gatekeeping is detrimental to the wargaming hobby is essential for fostering a more inclusive and vibrant community. So, what is gatekeeping? It basically, in the context of wargaming, it involves generally veteran players or groups imposing arbitrary standards or criteria that new or prospective players must meet to be considered true members of the community. I mean, this could include judging someone's knowledge of rules, their painting skills, the models they use, or even commitment to the hobby itself. More controversial ones could be around political bias and things like that. Gatekeepers often hold an elitist view, believing that only those who meet their specific criteria deserve to be part of the community. Now, there are several forms of gatekeeping. The first of those is knowledge barriers. Some gatekeepers will belittle newcomers for not knowing complex rules or detailed lore of a game, creating an intimidating atmosphere. Another one is skill judgments, dismissing or mocking beginners' painting or modelling skills and discouraging them from practicing and improving. Insisting that only those who spend specific amounts of money, for instance, on the hobby are genuine enthusiasts, and that can only alienate those with limited budgets. Other things such as cultural exclusivity, creating an environment where only certain types of people feel welcome, are often based on things like gender, race, or social background, and excludes a diverse range of potential players. Now, why is gatekeeping harmful? Well, for starters, it discourages newcomers. Gatekeeping creates an unwelcome environment, deterring new players from joining and contributing to the community. And this will stifle the growth of the hobby and can lead to a declining player base. It also stifles diversity. A healthy wargaming community thrives on the diversity of thought, background, and experience. Gatekeeping limits this diversity, leading to a more homogenized and less vibrant community. It reduces creativity. When only certain approaches and styles are deemed acceptable, it limits the creative expression of individuals. The hobby thrives on innovation and personal touches, which are hindered by gatekeeping. It damages the community's spirit, and wargaming is fundamentally a social hobby built on shared experiences and camaraderie. And gatekeeping fosters the division and elitism, undermining the supportive and collaborative spirit that makes community enjoyable. So how do we combat gatekeeping? Well, we promote inclusivity. We actively encourage and support newcomers. We offer help, share knowledge, and celebrate their achievements, no matter how small those achievements are. We challenge the attitudes of those that are gatekeeping. We call out their behaviour when we see it, and we try and foster a culture where all players, regardless of their experience or investment, feel pretty valued within the community. we try and highlight some of the diverse voices, elevate the voices of individuals from different backgrounds within the community. Showcasing a variety of perspectives helps bring down stereotypes and broadens the appeal of the hobby across the board. Another one is we educate and mentor, establish programs where experienced players can guide some newcomers through complexities of the hobby. This not only helps new players, but it also strengthens the sort of community bonds and spirit. Now, the future of wargaming really does depend on community growth and the ability to be welcoming and inclusive. By addressing and combating the issues around gatekeeping, then the community can ensure it remains quite a dynamic and thriving space for everyone. Embracing diversity, encouraging creativity and fostering a supportive environment will not only attract more players, but also will enrich the hobby for everyone. Gatekeeping is quite a big issue within the wargaming community, and it hampers growth around vibrancy. By recognising and addressing this problem, the community can build a more inclusive, diverse and welcoming environment where all players feel valued and encouraged to participate. Now, this in turn will ensure the longevity and the continued evolution of the hobby. In recent years, we've seen a lot of online gatekeeping from wide ranges of different areas. And sometimes it's not in the hobby in general, it's in one area of the hobby. So there's been a lot of gatekeeping within certain games within the hobby, and it's been around gender and things like that. And it's got quite sort of aggressive online. But there's not just those. We all know which games we're talking about before I continue. In that regard, but it's not just that one particular game that has gatekeeping issues. You tend to find also in other areas. So for instance, you can find it in high historicals where people are gatekeeping others because they've not painted their army the correct colour as far as that gatekeeper is concerned. One of the ones I've seen and heard over the years is anyone that plays Napoleonics. I've seen where players have been gatekeeped because their British infantry weren't painted the correct shade of scarlet red, and things like that. And so it's not just gatekeeping around gender issues and things like that. It can be as simple as colour choices on an army where people are gatekeeping. It's just sometimes it can be ridiculous as that. Other times it is hot topic issues where gatekeeping occurs. But in reality, gatekeeping shouldn't occur at all within the hobby. This hobby is should be one of inclusivity. I mean, when I started the hobby back in the early 80s, the only people that were considered to play in this hobby were considered geeks, nerds, and people that were shunned by the popular kids at school. So, and as up until its recent years, that's always been the case. It's been the oddballs that played this game, especially if you're playing games like Warhammer. You were considered a bit of a geek. You were considered, it's Timmy and his goblins, type of thing. So the fact that there are people within our hobby behaving like people that used to sort of bully those that played the hobby years ago and they're now behaving like those bullies is ridiculous, in my opinion. I've always felt this is one of those hobbies where you can come into and no one will treat you badly, because everyone comes from a background, a diverging background, and a lot of people come into the hobby may have been bullied for other reasons by other people. And this has always been one of those hobbies that's been quite accepting of people, regardless of their sort of behaviour and stuff like that. I mean, let's be honest, I've met loads of people within this hobby who I would say socially don't get on in the world because they don't have the social skills outside of the hobby. They don't interact very well with people. But in this hobby, because we've been quite accepting over, they thrive. And if we're going to start gatekeep, and if we're allowing people to gatekeep, people like that won't come into the hobby, and they won't experience something where they can escape the sort of attitudes they would normally experience outside of the hobby. If you understand what I'm saying, that they come in, people like that have struggled with social skills, come into the hobby and they meet like-minded people. They meet people that will accept them for who they are because they play the war game. They play they're gamers, tabletop gamers, and so they're accepted. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are. If you've got an army to bring down on the table, we'll play you. And that's always been the attitude in everywhere I've been and the people that I've gamed with. So I think when people start gatekeeping, we as the community should call it out and say, nah, if you're going to gatekeep, you're out. We don't want you here. Anyway, that's all. That's just my personal opinion. I just don't think gatekeeping is very helpful to the hobby. And we should, as a community, kick the gatekeepers out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.